Hey y'all, it's Regina or Gina, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am sitting with my queerness. It's my queerness is something that's really difficult to put into words for me. Um, it's mainly just a lot of feelings and sensations. Yet something that I really value about this space is that I can have conversations, have reflections that are hard and still feel safe and feel a sense of value in doing so. And so I wanted to invite y'all into this processing of just what queerness means to me and hopefully a reflection on what it means to you. So, oh boy. Because queerness is really hard to put into words, I sort of began with just a really accessible definition of it, which is found on Wikipedia. And Wikipedia says something paraphrased that queerness is an umbrella term for non-cisgender and non-heterosexual identities. And that was really useful because it was really concise. It really in a really simple way framed something that can be really, really complex and really hard. Yet that felt a little double-edged in that that definition seemed to still center the normative identities that I think queerness tries to create space away from, or tries to allow processing that's different from those norms. Some other definitions of queerness invited in this idea of spectrums, that queerness allows space for the spectrum of gender identity and sexual orientation. And that felt cool. I think that's one of the first ways that I was introduced to the idea of queerness, or one of the first frameworks that really resonated with me. I realized when thinking of spectrums that my identity was a lot more fluid than I thought it was. It just was a lot more complex, a little murky. And in that mindset, some other language or some other words became useful. I also identify as pansexual. I identify as bisexual in that framework too, and as non-binary. And I think what's cool about queerness is that it allows all those identities to coexist. And yeah, as I began to look more and more at more definitions of queerness, that theme of openness, the theme of an undefined abstract aspect to queerness really came up. This is a quote from a community activist when asked what queerness means to them, and their name is Stephen Z. Patton. Even as a slur, the word described those who existed outside of what society mandates, so it's fitting that the term now defies all restrictions of love and self that the world has placed on us. Yeah, so that, again, this idea that queerness can also mean, in all the identities it holds, it can also mean sort of an openness to really look at what society asks of us and really begin or explore, invite this path of self-reflection to pull what is useful to us from society and to leave behind what is not true or useful to us. If I'm honest with myself, or when I really look within, I think queerness is really difficult to put into words because it more than anything, it just registers as a feeling to me, or registers as a sensation. When I thought about queerness within sort of the paradigm or the image of my identity or myself, I think that my queerness sits really close to certain values that I hold really close, including a sense of practicing a sense of openness and practicing a sense of vulnerability, self-compassionate, attentive vulnerability as an act of love. And that's not to say that that sort of practice doesn't come without pain. It asks you, when you're in that sort of space of self-reflection, to sit so much closer to the things that may confine you than ever before. And again, sort of question or ask, what their use is, and sit with the choice of what you do with them, or how you either how you move with them, how you look at these norms, these societal expectations. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult to be really aware of things that are so powerful, that have so much sway in how your life is supposed to be, or how it seems like it's supposed to be. And when I think of like the kind of bravery that it takes to acknowledge, the pain that comes with self-awareness, it makes me feel like my queerness is inherently black, because my blackness asks me to do that every day. It asks me to look at the things that are painful about my world, and still find ways to reimagine or create what I want love to look like for me to exist here. And that's cool. It's cool and really murky at the same time to sort of, when you look inside, see that your identities, they are just sort of meshed into, not even one, just sort of meshed into each other. And that is intersectionality, my friends. When I think of that murkiness, it also reminds me of something that I am still sort of grappling with, and it's the idea of queerness as an act of reclamation. I know that for myself, I haven't looked very deep into the history of like the language of queerness. I think it's something that is painful, and that's something that I will have to practice bravery to look at. Yet with my very rudimentary, fundamental understanding of queerness as an act of reclamation, it reclaiming what it means to be strange, what it means to be queer. It feels like it's allowing space for the narrative or my story of mental illness in and alongside my story of what it means to be queer, of my queerness. And that intersectionality is something that, again, I don't often have the words to talk about, but I know it deeply frames how I move about the world, what it means to be neurodivergent, what it means to be living with a severe mental illness, and how that impacts my social identities, including the way that I love, who I'm able to love, what love looks like when you're moving with trauma. Those are queer questions for me, and they're also mental health questions too. So I guess when I think about queerness, it still feels really murky to me. It still feels like this big abstract, like unknown sometimes, this like really kind of otherworldly part of myself. And as a really spacey person, that really resonates with me strangely. To just have to be living with an identity that leaves so much to left to understand about myself, and also answers a lot of what I'll always understand. Yeah. That's 15 minutes of queerness. Queerness is hard. Yeah, at least for me, it's something that I am always navigating, always feeling, and in that sort of mulling or processing and thinking about. And so, with that in mind, thank you. Thank you for allowing me the space to really, again, invite in conversations that are really difficult to face. If you are in the space to reflect, I really would love to hear what queerness means to you. Sort of any intersections that it holds, if it's abstract, can be queerness. One thing I thought when sort of journaling about this was like queerness is also these like, it's other sensations, right? It's like the feeling of a breeze on my face when I'm feeling anxious. It's a deep breath. It's sunlight. It's like, in a really not like, not to like romanticize it, but queerness I think is so much more than what I can put into words. And so, yeah, again, I'd love to hear, how you conceptualize queerness in your identity. Yeah. If you like this reflection, feel free to give it a like. Yeah, just out here processing and hoping that some of it connects, or some of it makes us feel less alone, I guess. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. Identity is really important to me, and I will always create space and conversations to talk about it. So yeah, if you want to have hard conversation, but also have some fun sometimes too. I think that's it. You have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.